Australia's economy has shown further signs of recovery as consumers, especially pandemic-weary Victorians, start spending their lockdown savings. Retail sales lifted sharply to $29.6 billion in October, up 1.4% compared to the previous month. The Bureau of Statistics (ABS) figures also revealed that sales had surged plus 7.1% over the past 12 months. The ABS said the result was driven by Victoria's reopening of physical stores, as strict COVID-19 lockdown restrictions began to ease slightly. The figures show the starting glimmers of hope for retailers as Melbourne's lockdown ended. Sales in Victoria jumped 5.1%, far higher than any other state and territory. The state announced an easing of restrictions in mid-October and officially lifted many closures of retail, dine-in, hospitality and community events on October 27. By comparison, retail trade rose moderately in New South Wales plus 0.7%, Western Australia plus 1%, and South Australia plus 0.6%, but they fell in Queensland minus 0.5%, Tasmania minus 1.4%, the Northern Territory minus 0.6%, and Australia Capital Territory minus 0.1%. Online sales made up 10.4% of total retail turnover in October. Fashion blogger Hayley Hughes was one of many Melburnians who started shopping in mid-October in preparation for the lockdown to end. During lockdown, I'd saved more than I ever have been able to spend in my entire life. I wasn't going out. The only thing I bought was tracksuits, she said. She celebrated the easing of Melbourne's restrictions by buying a new pink dress online in late October. It was just so exciting. I wanted to look amazing and have the best time because we realized it could all just be taken away, she said. Ms. Hughes went on to wear that dress at her first post-lockdown celebration at a bar in late October. Her spending habits also started to change across the month. She was spending less on groceries to eat at home and starting to spend more on bars and cafes, as hospitality venues reopened in late October. However, most of her post-lockdown spending happened in early November. As the celebrations really ramped up, I bought new dresses. Makeup that I haven't needed since March. 4 pairs of sandals, she said. I also bought a new car. I ended up spending all of my lockdown savings. This points at the fact that November's ABS retail trade figures are likely to be the data set that shows the biggest boost to Victoria. They will not be officially released until January. The industries which saw the biggest jump in sales were cafes, restaurants and takeaway food plus 5.4%, department stores plus 4.5%, and clothing, footwear and personal accessories plus 6.8%. On the other end of the spectrum, household goods sales dropped minus 1% as customers had already spent big on building and gardening supplies, electronics, and furniture earlier this year when the pandemic began. As the urge to panic buy subsided, so did sales at supermarkets and grocery stores minus 0.7%. However, Australians continued to enjoy their alcohol, with liquor retailing jumping 3.1%. Retail sales have been extremely volatile in the past few months. The first wave of coronavirus infections led to sales plunging 17.7% in April, the worst result ever recorded by the ABS. 1 month later, retail trade had its best result ever, surging 16.9% as customers ramped up their panic buying. More recently, as consumers began to calm down, sales fell sharply in August minus 4% and September minus 1.1%. A survey of retailers by Deloitte found business owners were seeing supercharged demand for their products. Almost 40% of retailers expect Christmas sales to exceed last year's sales by more than 5%, and 24% expected sales to decline by more than 5%. Of those surveyed, 71% expect online sales during the Christmas period to exceed the same period last year and 44% expect more than 10% of their total sales to be online, the highest in the history of the survey. David White, national leader of Deloitte's retail group, said this year's survey reflected the uneven impact of the pandemic on Australian retailers. Some have benefited from border closures and consumers spending more time at home, whereas others in the services, apparel and catered food market have borne the brunt of the downturn. He said, the polarization of the market means that there is not just one narrative around COVID-19, but many. Paul Zara, head of the Australian Retailers Association, said achieving any level of retail growth in a pandemic is a truly remarkable result. We can see the effects of the government stimulus across spending trends and retail performance this year, leaving us in no doubt that stimulus works for retail, Mr. Zara said. He said while it was great retail trade was growing, he was mindful of the pain being felt by retailers significantly impacted by social distancing and lockdowns.